What's wrong with American agriculture? What's right with American agriculture? Who gets credit and who takes blame for what's wrong or what's right? That's what I'm covering, my friends, in this episode of The Granary. You ready for a conversation with some real farmers about real issues? And the best part? You're invited. So pour yourself a drink, grab a snack, most importantly, pull up a chair. Welcome to The Granary. Hey, guys. All right, I'm sitting here with my friends from FMC. That's Adam Byrne. He's a Michigan guy, and he's joined by Gail Stratman, who's a Nebraska guy. Both of them with FMC are sponsoring this show. We very much appreciate your sponsorship. We appreciate you coming in from out of state to join us right here at the Granary at Daily of Farms in Huntington, Indiana. We're joined by my friend Kelly Garrett, creator of XtremeAg. All right, you've been in this business your whole life. In another recording, we heard from our friend Adam, very politely saying, well, I don't have as many years of experience in this industry as Gail does, which is a nice way of saying you're old. But you know what? Gail's only a year older than me. We've been around this business our whole life. I've got lots of opinions about this business. I comment on this business. I speak at ag functions. I can tell you, I think there's some things wrong with our business. And I can do it from the farmer standpoint. I can do it from the corporate standpoint. I can do it from the policy standpoint. I can go from all different angles. There's some things that are really right with our business. You can do it from the farmer perspective. You're a business guy, an entrepreneur. You can do it from that angle. What's wrong with American agriculture? What's right? Where's the credit go? Where's the blame go? Give me any example.
I think what's wrong with American agriculture is the independence of the farmer going down. I believe the farmer gets farmed. I believe that. You know, Lee Lubers has said that, our XtremeAg partner. I think what's right with American agriculture is the quality and the quantity which we provide. Food is inexpensive. Now, I know right away you said in the last episode, food is high priced. I don't agree. When our president came out and said that beef is expensive. Yeah. I read a metric that for what the average employee, the average wage right now, the average person needs to work 10 minutes to buy a pound of beef. Right. In 2015, they need to work 15 minutes. Yeah. So food is not expensive. And I think that is a credit to the American farmer.
Mm-hmm. Clarify. I said food has gone through an inflationary period.
Yes.
From a standpoint of affordability, it is less affordable than it was. But globally, last I did my research, the average Nigerian spends about half of their income eating, and we spend still about 10 to 11% here. So yes,
that's my point.
It's inflation. We've got inflationary food pressure, but no, it's still affordable. What's wrong with? I agree with you, by the way. What's wrong is let's just take that one. The farmer gets farmed. We've got a policy situation. We've got a corporate structure that the farmer's a lot of times a conduit between, the flow of money. And I think that's what you're talking about.
That is what I'm talking about.
And I'd say, so which goes back to the independence, et cetera. You want to tie into that one? You were raised on a farm. You've been around this game your whole life.
Yeah, I mean, we've gotten really efficient at doing things, but because of that, we've gotten really dependent upon those systems that we're utilizing to do that. And like you said, we're getting farmed, so to speak. Like I said, yeah, I grew up on a row crop livestock farm. I think back to the things that we used to do, and I'm glad there's a lot of things that we don't do the same way anymore, because I always told people I grew up, if you could chop it, shovel it, or chase it, I did it.
Yeah.
And most of the times it wasn't fun. And so I'm glad we don't do things that way, and some of the innovations we got anymore. But some of the things that we've developed over the years to make things easier also back us into problems. I always tell people, one of the worst things that ever got invented in farm agriculture was the cab tractor. Because if you had to be out there on an open station tractor, we wouldn't be doing some of the stuff in times of the year. We try to do stuff, and then we wonder why it didn't turn out.
And you're talking about things like compaction or harming the soil or planting too early.
Yeah, that's planting too early.
When it's 38 degrees but that tractor's 70, and you got your Twitter feed, you got your satellite radio. Hell, it don't bother you. If it's 38 degrees and you're out there on a 656 or something like that, you're like, we're going to wait until it gets warm to plant.
Exactly. You see guys farming in the snow, and you always get the question, what's too early to plant?
Huh?
Well, I guarantee you, if you spend most of your life in a coveralls from November to May, you figure out when it's too early to plant, kind of stuff. Because if it's too cold to be on a tractor, it's probably too cold for your seed.
If you're going to have your coveralls on, you shouldn't.
This has to be one of my favorite moments of all the shows we've recorded in the Granary, because this is the first time Gail Stratman has been here. One of the biggest things that's wrong with American agriculture is cabbed tractor, enclosed environment.
I would not have guessed that.
Buggy.
I did not have that on my bingo card.
I did, but I love it.
I do. It's a great
statement. We don't like the comfort level.
Exactly. Oh my God, when we got our first cab tractor in the 1970s, I mean, it was fighting your brothers because you had one person that had to run the cab tractor, and you needed everybody else that was shoveling hog manure.
When I was 14, 15 years old, we had 2 9-foot sickle bar mowers. I was on the open station 4020. My Uncle Kevin was in the 4450 with the cab, and when he would drive past me on the 90-degree day, he'd act like he's shivering from the air, and I'm dying, sweating, getting sunburned. You're exactly right.
And hearing damage, yes.
Yeah.
Sunburn, skin cancer, hearing damage, and you're out there in the elements. And what's wrong, Adam Byrne, with American agriculture? What's right? Who's to get the credit? Who's to get the blame? Take any of those you want.
When I
tee off of any of these.
Yeah, when I think about it's not quite the same as the cab tractor, but I think we just spent a lot of time talking about innovation. But I think one of the things I think that's wrong right now is there's just a dearth of opportunities or products or things that at the disposal of the grower that it's confusing, right? There's just so much noise right now. That how do you make these decisions on what to use or what to do? I think we've gotten complicated. I think we've made things more complicated sometimes than it has to be. And I think what's right with farming is just, as somebody who did come from a university background, the farming community, the culture, the family values, I love interacting with the farmers one-on-one. And so that's what's right, and maintaining that culture.
So what's wrong? What's wrong? You talk about the complexity. Is that from that companies like FMC are making it that way because of all the amazing products? Or is it the technology that we're now using because it's helping us allegedly improve our efficiency? Or is it the finance? What's the complexity that you think's wrongest?
Well, I think there's a bunch of opportunities for people to kind of dive into the industry and provide opportunities, whether it's nutritionals or biologicals or ag chemicals. There's just a lot of opportunities for people to try to come into the system and bring a product and say, this is going to do this for you. But we need to understand our system. We need to understand, as you said, kind of a holistic approach, the nutritional value or nutrition components of our crop. We need to know our soil health. We need to know the varieties we're planting. There's more to it than just throwing an additive out there, but that's so overwhelming, I think, sometimes for farmers to understand all these things that are getting dumped on them. What's the right choice?
Okay, so what's wrong? You're saying the complexity, and it also probably becomes overwhelming, and maybe it doesn't actually end up making us better because it almost is too much to sort through.
And we sometimes lose the agronomics behind it in terms of, making a choice to make a profit versus making a choice that makes the most sense to get a return on your investment.
Talk to you about someone that's Mr. Negative Nancy, and that's Gail Stratman, because Kelly said, here's what's wrong and here's what's right. And you said, here's what's wrong and what's right. All he went with was wrong, wrong, wrong. These damn farmers are comfortable in their cab tractors. That's wrong. These don't have one. These farmers aren't working hard enough. They should be out there.
If I remember correctly, Gail's one of the younger ones in his family. And so he lost that cab tractor fight.
Yeah,
that's where the negative.
He never got to ride in the tractor.
He never got the cab tractor.
He still holds that.
I have a similar situation.
I detect some resentment.
Yeah, I guess so.
All throughout. Well, social media has been a great boon to allow people to connect. But one of the things I see as I follow social media and a lot of the ag stuff, I see a tremendous amount of people tossing out information or tossing out things around products and that. And my first question, especially over the last year or two, first thing I do when I see somebody, especially if I don't know them, is my first thought is, what are your credentials that make you the expert to offer this advice? Because you're putting people, if you're not understanding, maybe with their background, maybe they've got a lot of background, maybe they got a lot of understanding, or maybe they're just marketing something that sometimes you question where they're coming from. So I think one of the things people really got to do is with all this information coming at us, take a step back and ask yourself, is this something I'm trying to do on my farm or not? And is this good information that might benefit me or not, to help you sort through it? Because there's a ton of it out there, and I don't mean that that people are offering bad information, but there's so much of it that not everything can work for everybody.
There's no way.
No.
Right? You got to be able to figure out a way to sort.
You don't subscribe to the theory that it's on the internet, so it must be true.
Exactly. That's yes, that part. And so that's why I get real careful about what I say sometimes, because it's like I don't want to lead people down a path that may not fit them.
We covered it once at this very table about the sheer volume of information that's out there, and how do you parse through it and do that? So you're not wrong in that regard. You still haven't gotten to anything positive about agriculture like you two did. He talked about the volume and the quantity, and the quality of our food, et cetera, et cetera. And you said about the people. Yeah. And I think that's one thing that is right about this. And I guess I'll throw in my thing. I'll get to what's wrong, but I'm going to go ahead and lead off with what's right. You said you think that this industry it's got a lot of family. It's got a lot of family orientation. We're not patting ourselves in the back. Oh, we're ag, we're all wholesome. There's plenty of non-wholesome people in here, but in general, it gives you a good feel. Mm-hmm. This is not, we're not out here with used car sales types as much.
Well, I did say something positive earlier, because I said we have gotten really efficient in agriculture. On your best day, how many thousand bushels can you take out in a day?
Combining?
Yeah.
6,500
bushels a day, right? 65,000 bushels a day, right?
It fills a larger size grain bin than most farms ever had 20 years ago.
That's 5x of what we used to produce on an entire farm, and that would take us 2 months to harvest, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So we have gotten, with the technology and all that, and the efficiencies, we have gotten really good at maximizing our return and lowering our cost per acre or per bushel. But
we've gotten really good at efficiency. I wanted to touch on that. We've gotten really good at the efficiency, like you talked about, and the consistency. Look at how we raise hogs and things like that now. But that's also a negative towards farming. When we've gotten so consistent and we've gotten so efficient and we've mitigated all that risk,
the margins aren't there.
The margins aren't there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the margins aren't there because we've gotten so. But the American government and the American consumer wants that efficiency and they want that consistency.
Yeah.
But now all of the risk.
And we could argue that, again, we being a touch older ends of this table, but not by a lot. The margins weren't there 40 years ago either. Obviously, there was no matter whether you were out there with an Oliver 1850 from 1970, like I was out there driving still in 1985, a 15-year-old tractor with a heat houser. That added 7 degrees. So instead of it being 19 degrees, it felt like it was 26.
Yeah.
But the point is, there was no margins in 1985 either. So that's a reality. People up, I think that's a really good positive about this industry. And I would say, extrapolating off of that, Adam, that I used to be in comedy. I used to speak for all different kinds of corporate crowds, all right? Funeral directors to insurance people to finance to whatever, tech. Most people didn't love their work the way ag people love their work. Mm-hmm. And, you have a corporate job and you used to work for a university and all that. And maybe there are days you didn't like, or some of the BS you didn't enjoy about the organization, but you probably always liked the work. And that's something that I think is very right about agriculture. Most people would genuinely love, we use the passion word too damn much, but love the work. You still love the work?
I would go back to it in a heartbeat. Some of the day-to-day tasks weren't the most fun, but at the end of the day, you had a self-worth. And like I said, growing up where I did, I was gracious enough to have parents who involved us at a very young age. And so because of that, by the time you got to middle school and high school, you really felt like you got a part of this. This part of this is you. Think
about that, Gail.
You
used the word involved. So when I was forced to go out and feed the calves at age 8, that's called involvement.
Well, it was because, and you learned about how the importance of that involvement was, because if you didn't do it, you would find out real quick the consequences of you not doing it. It wasn't, if you decided not to do it that day, somebody else is just going to go pick it up and do it, no questions asked. Mm-mm.
All right, so you have, I'm sure, something to say, but is it about what's wrong, what's right? And then we have to get to the blame or credit, because I also then want to do the juxtaposition. What's wrong with corporate? And then corporate says what's wrong with at the farm level. And I want to get to that too. So whichever category you want to go with, whichever direction you want to take it.
What's wrong with corporate?
Corporate ag.
Yes. What's wrong with corporate ag?
What's wrong with the ag that corporate contributes to? Maybe that's the other way to look at it.
Sometimes it's too big. The corporate part of ag is too big and it's not nimble enough, and they don't, and sometimes corporate ag is so big, so they're not nimble enough to understand the day-to-day challenges that we have. And sometimes corporate ag has gotten so big and it's such a disconnect. You know how we have a disconnect from our food because how the average person now in the United States is how many generations removed from the farm. Mm-hmm. Well, that same employee is also removed from agriculture, and they don't understand what's going on a farm. I have a brother-in-law that wanted to know if there's different colored milk from different colored cows.
Mm-hmm. But he doesn't work in ag.
No.
But okay.
But think about, no, he doesn't work at ag, but I doubt that his viewpoint, you know, he's been married to my sister now for a few years. Now he understands, and he's going to be embarrassed when he watches this, but but like that same mindset or lack of understanding exists in corporate ag where they don't understand.
I have been booked to speak at corporate ag events. And we always do the pre-call, and I said, give me some demographics. And they always think it means, ethnicity. I'm like, no. Tell me about this crowd. Where are they from? Yeah. What do they look like? What's their age? And I said, so do you think most of them are like me, a farm kid that has a degree from a land-grant school? And they said, no. More than half our people don't have any ag background and don't even have an ag degree, but they're in these different, shipping, transportation. There's a lot of roles that an FMC type company has. And I said, I said, so my role, they said, your role is to give them some understanding of what the hell is going on in this business. And because that's
a real different message than talking to a bunch of farmers.
Yeah. Way different.
Yeah.
Way different.
I feel like over my career, one of the things I've been able to contribute to the company I work for has been that perspective of, I grew up on a farm. I live in the middle of it. I eat, breathe, and sneeze it all the time. So it's where I come from. And I offer that perspective. Here's what growers are trying to do. Here's what they're wanting to do out there, because so many people don't understand agriculture. They're running up and down interstates. They look out and see something out in a field. One, they may be able to identify that it is a tractor. They have no clue what even that grower is attempting to do out there. And so that part of it is really difficult. And as generations continue to get more and more removed from the farm, and there's so few doing it, it becomes a challenge for those people that are trying to support that industry to actually understand what the end user, the grower, is trying to do.
Like we talk about, like my meat store, GLC beef. Growing up on the farm, that fact that you're going to butcher that calf and things like that, that's just a fact of life. We understand that at a very young age. When we started to put out videos for GLC beef, Will Osted, the producer, he's like, I said, well, I'd like to have a picture of the calf and things like that. And he said, people don't want to connect those two. And I'm like, they don't want to connect those two because they don't understand. And I mean, like, that's just part of what we do. It doesn't mean we're cruel. We're producing food.
Yeah.
I got asked that back when I had my beef operation. How do you eat a steer after you braised it? I said that with a fork and a knife. What's wrong from the corporate standpoint looking at the farm? Is he already did farm looking at the corporate. Sometimes too large, not nimble. Not doing the business thing. A lot of ag people, you see that on social media, these big companies gouging the farmer. First off, if that's the case, they'd all be making like 600% profit margins. Yeah. They're working on 28% profit margins. A big ag corporation in general is working on the same type of profit margins as about every other corporation that is supplying something to someone in or out of ag.
It's fascinating to me. Every business I've been involved in, every one of them is trying to make about the same amount of profit margin.
The outside always sees it differently.
I know, but they're all the same.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. You're not knocking back like, we brought in $100 and we made 93 off of that. I'm like, no, you brought in 100 and your margin was probably like $24.
It's kind of a law of economics. It just goes there.
That's exactly.
Yeah.
The different partners in XtremeAg, South Dakota, Iowa, all the way to Maryland with Temple, Arkansas, we all in a good year, we would all make about the same, and in a bad year, we'd all lose about the same, give or take. Now, there's some anomalies, but we all made about the same. But Lee's land in South Dakota was a lot less expensive, but his crop insurance was astronomical.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The law of economics just it goes to the same spot.
Yeah.
So you gave me Adam. You gave me a what's wrong and what's right. Is there anybody else you want to talk about from the corporate looking to farm? What else? What do you got?
So from the farm perspective, like what do we see from the corporate side on the farmer? I think
What are they doing wrong? What are they doing right?
I think we talked about this a couple of times today, the easy button approach, like looking for the easy option or the easy way out or the easy way to approach, whether it's nutrition or crop protection. I think that's the weakness.
And in doing so, what that has created is overusage of some synthetics.
Overusage maybe, or improper usage, poorly timed usage, maybe reliance on others instead of being in tune with your farm and your situation. I think, and that's not a generality I want to paint across everyone, but we do see some of that. I mean, very progressive farmers, I think, are more in tune, but I think there's a need there to be really kind of circumspect on what you're doing and how you're doing and why you're doing it.
I will tell you something that I think farmers do wrong. You've got Xyway on your shirt. If a farmer uses Xyway in the wrong way and your dealer comes out, is your dealer going to say you use it in the wrong way? It's your responsibility? They won't, because the farmer, you don't want to lose that customer, and you'll do something to keep that customer. And sometimes there's a lack of education and lack of understanding. The company will then comp it, or there'll be free stuff given because you don't want to lose the customer. And part of the time, it's our responsibility, and we should be told that, but we won't.
By the way,
we should be told it's our responsibility.
Before Gail goes, that is something that is sort of unique. Unique means there's nothing else like it, or at least very skewed. Farmers get their butt kissed more than the average. If I bought a product just as a normal person in my suburban house in Phoenix and I misused it and I started squawking about it from, let's say, my pool company, they come out and say, yeah, no, the instructions said don't do this, don't do this. They don't give me money, but we do that to farmers. We
do that in a ton of industry. I have a colleague that I work with that's from Brazil. And I was talking to her earlier this year about, sometimes we have to go out and when we're working with our products, we're dealing with farmers, we have to service a claim. And her first comment is, I know Americans in general are very heavily, they complain a lot. She says, Americans complain about everything.
Yes.
She says, I don't care. She says, if it's the cereal doesn't taste right, she says, you send a note to Kellogg's and tell them, what do? They send you a gift certificate for free cereal. She says,
so you keep buying.
So you keep buying. It's and that. And so
I don't know if I like the Brazilians talking about me.
So we deal with that a lot. I always tell people, I've farmed my entire life. I've got an entire family that farms. And I want to tell, how many over the years, how many claims we have turned in on stuff? 0. Now, does that mean we've done everything right every time? Heck no. But usually the first person I look at is in the mirror.
Yeah.
Okay, this didn't go right. Why is it? Because one, like it or not, Mother Nature still controls 80% of what we do. And so a lot of the things we do are tools to help us, manage things in our operation. But there is no guarantee that it's going to act exactly the same in year 1, in year 3, and year 5. And so you got to understand how those tools and how those things all interact in a biological system with Mother Nature involved. And the more you try to understand that, the better off you're going to be that understand that there's ebbs and flows with everything we do.
How many acres of corn gets planted too wet in the United States every spring and cold? And how many bags of free seed get given to the farmer because the farmer never did anything wrong?
No risk.
Yeah. But the seed company doesn't want to lose it. Yes.
And by the way, no offense, but if then the farmer is complaining, maybe when the cameras aren't on, sitting at this table having a beer, well, I'm paying $340 for a bag of that seed. I'm like, nah, really, it's $170. Because they gave you 2 bags. The first one you put into the first one you got and planted in the 41-degree, cold, wet Indiana soil, April 12th, even though you knew it wasn't going to germinate until about the time I go to the Indy 500 Memorial Day weekend. So you really got 2 bags for the price of 3.
And the seed dealer is never going to tell the farmer he planted it too wet. They're going to go back to corporate. They're going to go back to corporate and get
a lot about how a lot of times chemicals are so expensive And my first comment to that is, okay, a lot of times we don't recognize the value that you get from it, because if herbicides, what do you spend on an acre in herbicides? Say $60?
Yeah.
Okay, $60 an acre in herbicides. If you had no herbicides on that acre, what kind of a yield hit would you take?
More than $60.
It would
might not be getting combine through.
I would usually just say 1/3.
Or you'd be out there bent over pulling weeds all day, and you can't possibly do that on mass scale, et cetera, et cetera.
But just say 1/3. Take 200 bushel corn times a third.
Yeah.
That's 70 bushel an acre.
$280.
$280 an acre for a 60. That's a 4.5 to 1 return on your investment.
Yeah.
I saw some research, it was probably a decade or ago, and they said besides fertilizer, crop protection provides the best ROI on the acre.
It's true.
Because think about seed. What's a good bag of seed cost? $3.50?
That's what I just said. I don't know. I don't buy this.
200 bushel corn at $4 is $800 an acre. Take 800 divided by 350. That's what, 2.5?
Yeah. So you get more return on herbicide than you get on seed. Yeah. What's right? I got a couple of things on what's wrong, what's right, and we got to get to who takes claim or who gets blame, who gets credit. Do you got any more rights or you got any wrongs?
No, I mean, from the industry perspective, what's right, I think.
Yeah, we're talking about individual farm. We're really just more talking about macro.
Yeah, I think what's right. I think we talk about what's right and wrong. Some of the things that are right are also wrong. I think that somebody else alluded to that with the technology and the innovation. I think the tools we have are right, but I think they get to be used the wrong way. So I think we're in a situation right now where it's just really all about how do we best utilize what we have at our disposal and do it the right way. I don't think there's a underlying right or wrong anymore. It's a matter of how do we refine what we're doing and make sure we're doing things the right way.
I'll go with mine. I kind of said I was going to go last. I've been kind of kicking in here. What's wrong? We overproduce, and we think that somehow that still is what the future needs. And what's right is we're doing it more efficient than we've ever done. We're doing it with less natural resources than we've ever used. We're doing less diesel, less time, less pints of herbicide per acre, less pounds of fertility per unit of output of bushels. But what's wrong with it is too many people in our industry, and it's from the top on down, think that somehow this is still the future. And I just keep looking around saying, we're going to start dumping these soybeans in the Pacific? I mean, I don't know where they think this is going to go. And what's wrong is that we don't seem to understand that is complete. This change like that, and it's just not going to. We don't need any more of this stuff. What's right? The growth in regenerative, the growth in understanding that we can farm maybe less expensively and maybe have less yield, but also do better by the ground and do better versus it just going and getting high yield competitions at the Commodity Classic. That's cute and it was neat for you, but you even grew out of that. Like, oh yeah, that was neat, but that's not where we're going anymore. So that's what's right. I see a mind shift coming, maybe not as fast as I want to.
Understanding that there's more to it than just producing more bushels at a cheaper price, because we've focused so much. I mean, American consumer, food costs have gone up, but they probably haven't gone up on the scale of other inputs that were going in. I had a family member many years ago said, 1970 something, they loaded up a potload of hogs, sold that whole thing, built a house. You couldn't build a house.
Can't do that today. That'd be a big trailer.
So our solution to that is produce more, because that production side is probably the only side of that equation that a grower can really control.
Yeah, right.
Because all those other things have gotten
right.
So and I got to make that small margin now cover more and more.
Okay, so you just put it out there. What's wrong? What's wrong is all you really can do is control the production side, because obviously you have no control over that. Blame and credit. You're good at this. So you're better at pointing out people's flaws than I am, and being negative and critical. So why don't you go ahead and tell me who's to blame for any of these things that are wrong, or who's to get credit for things that are right in agriculture?
I think it's the same answer to both questions. I think that it's human nature that we want to get more efficient. We want to get more consistent. We want to do better. And as you defined just a few minutes ago, better is producing more.
Yeah.
And so we're all to blame and we're all to credit. It really is the yin and the yang of this subject.
Government policy?
it's going to help and hurt. I think it's the same answer.
Adam, are you worried that like your congressman's going to like call you up? You can't say that government policy is part of the problem here.
Well, certainly there's an involvement in the problem, but we're also highly dependent on government policy too at the farm level. So I think I completely agree. It's a yin and yang approach because we need it, but we're sitting in a situation where trade wars and where to put production right now is a big issue. And so I think government policy is creating problems, but I think we're also going to turn around and call for help when we need it.
Yeah.
Opportunity can be both a positive and a negative. Opportunity has allowed us to grow agriculture so much. I mean, I see where the state of ag was in the 1980s. And if you'd have been through that like some of us were, you'd have thought, because again, my dad at the time said, get out of ag. There ain't no money in it. We're basically surviving here. And so you looked at that and went, man, I don't know how we're ever going to get, we're going to feed the country. But opportunities arise from that. And so those opportunities have allowed this industry to really thrive. But, it's as people adapt and grasp onto those opportunities, it also creates challenges for the system as a whole, whether that's from the corporate level down to feed the input side of that thing, the output side of that, all of that with the farmer in between. So, it's just the economics and the livelihood of growing up in America and the agriculture side that offers those opportunities, but there's going to continue to be challenges that we're going to have to navigate through. Government's part of that, chemical companies, seed companies, everything. It doesn't matter what the input side of it is, land resources, all that sort of stuff. One of the challenges I often see is we're as he mentioned, the exports. We've done a great job of teaching the rest of the world how to get so much better at growing things. Mm-hmm. That was great because they became self-sufficient, but suddenly we start losing them as customers.
Yeah, right.
So, there's...
Is there blame or credit to be, okay, give them credit. Give them credit. Yeah, give the Brazilians credit. Give the people in Uzbekistan credit.
The Russians, China, all those sorts of things. Give them credit for seeing that and adapting. But we also got to recognize that changes the likelihood of them needing us the way they did 20 years ago.
Are the corporations to blame for that? They wouldn't sell product in Uzbekistan.
No, the corporations aren't to blame.
John Deere wanted to sell John Deere's in Uzbekistan. Chemical companies want to sell products in Uzbekistan.
Same as consolidation in farming. Everybody's trying to make more money and trying to grow their business and things like that. And we're all being pushed in the same direction.
By the way, I'm being a little bit facetious.
Yes, I know you are.
I'm being facetious because, let's face it, it is, after all, a global economy in many ways, and we are in a situation where we all have to make a living.
Yeah. Human nature is to make your life better. Yep. And they're trying to do it. We're probably half a century ahead of them on that level in some cases, but they're catching up. And like I said, it's a changing planet, and we will continue to adapt and bring new innovations and those sorts of things.
But some of the steps they're making now are going to be bigger leaps than what we're seeing on our end because we're already that far ahead.
The leaps we made 40, 50 years ago, they might be making now.
They're making now, and those look like monster leaps compared to what we're doing on the local level, and so that has impact on the global level.
That's very true. While you're on it, you want to give me any credit? You're Mr. Positive here, so we're going to go out with you. Any credit?
I think credit still goes to the farmer. I think the amount of work and the investment, I still think you go back to, we talked about the people. Too much of the industry is removed from the farm and doesn't understand the investment, the time, the energy, the labor of love that the farm has. And I think that gets lost in the shuffle when we talk about prices and food prices and global markets. I think the people deserve the credit.
I'll leave it right there. His name's Adam Byrne. He's with FMC. He's joined by Gail Stratman, who's also with FMC. They came in from out of state to sit right here at the Granary, and we always tell you don't even have to drive here. You can just pull up a chair figuratively and sit right here with us, and we do this all the time. More than 40 episodes have released, and maybe even 50 at this point, and if you have a topic you'd like us to cover to Granary, go ahead and just send a message, and we will do so. Please show us to your friends. Remember, we're on YouTube. Go to XtremeAg channel on YouTube. It's very simple. Just type it in, hit subscribe. Doesn't cost anything. And again, we'd like to cover any topics you'd like us to see. This is all about bringing a little bit of farm stuff to you. Joined by Kelly Garrett. Kelly Garrett is the founder of XtremeAg. He's going to be here in more and more episodes. And if you want to learn more about these fine folks at FMC, where do you go sponsoring this show? Thank you very much. Where do I go?
You can go to ag.fmc.com, or like I said, talk to anybody in the countryside, local suppliers, crop protection guys, and they'll be able to set you up.
Till next time, thanks for being here. Thank you, FMC, for sponsoring this. And until next time, I'm Damian Mason, coming at you from Daily Rosa Farms and the Granary. Cheers.